everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, my name is Monica. I like to post anti-MLMs, that's anti-multi-level marketing, life, and some true crime content here on this channel. So if any of that interests you, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I would love for you to stick around. In today's video, I am going to be going over another one of these self-help guru type people. So of course, just as a disclaimer, this video is for entertainment purposes only and just my opinions. Before we proceed, I wanted to give a huge shout out to some new patrons and channel members, Jen, Stephanie, Haley, and Emily. Thank you so much for supporting this channel, and thank you to all of you who watch my videos for free. I would not be here if it wasn't for y'all. As I said just a few seconds ago, today we're talking about one of these other self-help guru types, and her name is Dani Johnson. This was at the request of a content creator on Instagram with the username anti-MLM advocate. The first red flag that I've seen so far is there are almost no negative reviews or testimonials about Dani Johnson. My reasoning behind this being a red flag is because even with my own videos, no matter how much research I do, no matter how nice I am to the MLM victims, there's always going to be someone who dislikes the content or just me in general. And I'm a tiny nobody compared to Dani. I've seen a number of people talk about how Dani went from homeless to millionaire, and after reading about her story, she really did come from nothing, so I do have to recognize that. The line I've heard repeated a lot in interviews is that she grew up on welfare with drug addict parents, was pregnant at 17, homeless at 21, and a millionaire at 23. If you're not familiar with my channel, I sometimes like to analyze self-help or business gurus due to the nature of their training materials and just some of their marketing tactics. A lot of these gurus tend to gravitate towards a toxic positivity approach, and a lot of their content doesn't really provide actual tools to success, but just fluff to make you feel more motivated. While I do know some who benefit from self-help or personal development, I cannot be a part of it because of my experience within the MLM industry and how personal development is heavily pushed instead of useful training to build your business. I also know the difference between positivity and toxic positivity, along with things like law of attraction, but that's something that I can do an entire video on. After watching some of Dani's videos just here on YouTube or her interviews and stuff, I can see why people gravitate towards her, and I can see why people really look up to her as kind of like a role model because she does speak with confidence and she has a rags to riches type of a story, which in the MLM industry, for example, or if you've watched any of my reaction videos here on this channel, that is something that these MLM reps sell a lot instead of the products. They sell the story, they sell the lifestyle, they sell their why. Along with being confident, Dani seems to be very enthusiastic about what she's speaking about, along with showing emotions where people may be able to relate to her. This isn't going to be a full-blown deep dive type of a video, more of just an overview about Dani. Let's dive into the world of Dani Johnson and see if she's just another one of these Rachel Hollis types, or could she possibly have the right mission in mind? What I will say about Dani Johnson, even with my biased opinion aside due to the multi-level marketing and business guru connection, she is an inspiring woman, and I can see why so many would be a fan of her and her work. If you're unfamiliar with what an MLM is, I've created many videos on these types of businesses, but it's essentially a flawed business structure, in my opinion, that has multiple levels, and as you climb those levels, you obviously receive more money. However, in order to climb to the top, you need to recruit people and build a team. You receive commissions from having a team and the product, but of course, you'll see a higher financial gain once you have a team. It's next to impossible to make money with just selling the products. If you look at income disclosure statements, it shows you the percentages of people that do make money. However, the majority make little to no money, some even lose money. There have been plenty of unfortunate testimonials of people going into massive amounts of debt over these companies, and I wish that she didn't build her empire off of MLM. However, from what I did read about how hard her life was at one point, it truly seems like she went through a lot. Or at least this is what she claims. Maybe there's a different side to the story. But you may be asking, what is this rags to riches story? For the portion about Dani's past, I do need to issue a trigger warning for sexual abuse of a child, suicide, and substance abuse. So if this is something that you cannot listen to or cannot watch, however you're viewing me currently or listening to me, then I highly suggest skipping through the portion about her upbringing. In every interview I've watched thus far of Dani talking about her upbringing and her story, she usually says the same thing word for word. In my opinion, I don't really think it's scripted. I mean, I may be wrong, but I do think it's just the fact that she's told her story so many times that by now she has kind of like a rundown of her entire life, and it's kind of one of those elevator pitch type things. Dani may be a millionaire now and a person who some have said changed their lives significantly, but her life wasn't the greatest, nor was she given anything on a silver platter. Both of Dani's parents were drug addicts, and her stepdad, according to Dani, abused and molested her. In one interview, she said that she was suicidal at just 6 years old because of her home life, which is incredibly sad, and I cannot imagine being in her shoes. When she was 13 years old, she was invited to go to church. She accepted Christ, but as one article said, didn't feel a lot of love through his people. At around 14 years old, according to one of Dani's YouTube videos, after living on welfare her whole life, everything changed. Her mother had broken her neck, and due to a malpractice suit, all of a sudden they were in a huge house living on 8 acres, and money wasn't really a big worry anymore. Her husband Hans also grew up on welfare, and when he was 8 years old, he started his own business because the family really needed money. He would lace flowers into leis for tourists to make some extra money for the family. Something that I find a little, I don't know if you would really say interesting, but it was just something that I found that Dani said in a YouTube video, was that when she was on food stamps, eating ground beef was a luxury. She proceeds to talk about how nowadays people eat things like lobster and filet mignon while on food stamps, and she believes this is why people stay on food stamps, because they're able to eat luxury foods. From my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, the way that food stamps work is you have a specific amount allowed per month per person. I'm sure if people are spending their food stamps on more expensive foods, they have to budget for the rest of the month. Are there people who take advantage of government assistance? Well, I'm sure there are, but those who don't and are truly struggling, I find this to be so insulting that she said this. Fast forward to 17-year-old Dani. She became pregnant by the deacon's son and refused to have an abortion, so instead she went through the adoption process. It was at this point that she decided she no longer wanted anything to do with God. This was because of how people at her church treated her during this time. They judged her instead of helping her heal. On a personal note, while I wasn't in the same situation Dani was in, I can understand where she's coming from, because one of the many reasons why I left the church was due to how I was treated. Regardless of how rough Dani's beginnings were, she knew she wanted to make something of herself. Even though Dani gave her child up for adoption, she did say later on in an interview that 14 years after this, she was reunited with her daughter. At 21 years old, she became one of the top salespeople at one of her jobs. She had gotten married, and her husband decided to move to Hawaii. What Dani didn't know was that her husband was a con man. Thanks to him, Dani was broke and ended up with $35,000 worth of credit card debt. She did have a bad business deal go wrong as well, where someone who she had gone to training seminars with and was a multi-millionaire stole her business. Not too soon after, she lost her job and ended up being evicted from her apartment. After this happened, she was homeless and living out of her car with just $2.03 to her name. Dani was depressed and suicidal at this point in her life. She went to a beach party where she used some substances, and for whatever reason, she jumped into the ocean when she heard a voice say, "Pick up your mat and walk." She believed this was God telling her that she needed to change her life. This is when Dani started a business out of the trunk of her car and made $250,000 within a year. She went back to church, brought God back into her life, and became a millionaire at 23. She is now married to her husband Hans and has 5 children and some grandchildren. Dani has become an author and has 4 books, but what was this business that she started out of the trunk of her car? After Dani was left with all of this debt, her life was pretty much crumbling. She found a weight loss program in her car, and she bought this before she was homeless, but Dani decided to create a flyer for a weight loss program, then placed it on the post office and used a payphone to make calls. Within 3 hours, she had received 25 messages from potential customers. Within a month, she made a total of $4,000, and by the end of the first year, she made $250,000. By the second year, she managed to have 18 weight loss centers within the country. What's interesting is she hated the business that she got into, and this is something that we're going to go over a little bit later because there is a podcast that she was a guest on that I want to talk about. Nowadays, she has a few different businesses, but she is very well known for her motivational speeches and trainings. Before we go over those though, I wanted to dissect a few of her interviews due to things that she has said. Dani has been interviewed on The Oprah Winfrey Show, Good Morning America, Forbes, Fox and Friends, and The View. She even starred on the ABC show Secret Millionaires. A quote that I heard her say at one point was, "Debt is a habit and has nothing to do with how much money you make." I would have to disagree slightly. While yes, some debt can be a habit, for example, if you like to online shop a little bit too much and you know you shouldn't, but you do it anyway, been there, done that. That is, I could see where she's coming from with that. However, my medical bills that put me into collections and the car repairs I had to go through with in order to get to my job had to go on credit cards. So clearly, these were not habits, those were necessities. So it's not very black and white, Dani. It's also kind of ironic given that Dani supports MLM, and that was one of the things that put me and many others into debt as well. So I'd be curious to see what she had to say about that. In one interview with CBN.com, the interviewer asks her if she got her start with multi-level marketing, and she mentions that she actually got involved in a lot of different things, including her own products as well. What I've noticed in interviews is she likes to dodge questions and not answer them 100%.
You got into it, was it multi-level or Pill Foods? It was a multi-level?
I actually got involved with a couple of different things. I actually even manufactured my own health and nutrition products as well. Yes, I did, as well as a skincare line and
back in your kitchen stirring up something?
No.
Once she made $250,000 the year after she started selling out of the trunk of her car, she invested her money into manufacturing her own products. She talks about how she was able to start building her business with relationship marketing, which in other words is network marketing and something that she had learned from multimillionaires a year prior. In the same interview, she kind of disses other gurus, which I can totally get on board with because she was right with what she said. However, she does turn it around as a selling point to say how she does it differently. This is textbook MLM 101 basically, followed by a scripture and some more quoting from the Bible. She brought a gift for the interviewer, his staff, and his viewers. But it wasn't actually a gift. It was a link to a free course on her website, and they would just have to pay for shipping for the CD. Now, I say CD, that means this is kind of an old interview. But if you have to pay for part of it, then that's not a gift, Dani. I'm sorry, but that's not a gift. One thing I've noticed in a ton of different interviews is Dani references scriptures and the Bible quite a bit. The issue with this is she uses her religion as part of her business. She wrote a book titled Spirit-Driven Success. In one interview, she even said that God was the one who sold 60,000 copies of the book. Interesting.
They can get a hold of that. It's not available in bookstores. Mr. Robertson, look what God has done. We self-published. That book came out January 2nd. In 90 days, 60,000 copies sold because God has taken that message. Not because we're so great at what we do, but we have a God that is so faithful. Because we've been diligent with the small things, he's been able to promote that book worldwide.
I have said this numerous times on my channel, and I'll say it again, but I absolutely despise when people use religion as a way to pitch their business. Not to mention, scriptures and the Bible has been interpreted in different ways. There have been people who use the Bible to fit their own narrative. That's something that I have a major issue with. Let's move on to the interview that Dani did with The View, because I did find that one to be a little interesting given some of the things that she said in that interview. She started off by saying she owns 5 companies, she's an author and a speaker, and that when they asked her how she built this business out of the trunk of her car, Dani said that she called the manufacturer that she had bought some products from. She liked to call this a weight loss thing, never gave the name of the brand or anything like that. She found out what it would take to license the product, and she created a market out of nothing.
How did you go from this terrible circumstance to now you are a successful entrepreneur?
Okay, well, first things first is I started from the trunk of my car in a payphone booth, and I called a manufacturer that I had heard about some products from, and I found out what it would take to license that product. And I basically created a market out of nothing. And so I got people who wanted to use it, and
What was the product?
It was a weight loss thing, and I was fat.
Were you fat?
I was
lost
50
weight.
pounds heavier than I am right now.
Okay.
And I had not lost anything, but I knew other people wanted to. So anyway, back to the show. Fast forward,
Now you're married.
She's very big on giving back no matter how little you have, which I'm all for, but I do think that if someone is volunteering and they're still in a terrible financial situation, they could use that time volunteering at an actual job so that they can work their way to a point where they can volunteer and not worry about putting food on the table. Dani even said how she did give kids scholarships, but then when asked how much, she dodged the question by just saying a lot, which I'm not surprised because she tends to dodge questions a lot in interviews. But saying a lot is not very descriptive. A lot to some people may be under $1,000, while to others it's tens of thousands of dollars.
and they're earning scholarships into universities.
So did you give them scholarships? Did you give them money? Did you?
Yes.
You gave them money?
Yes.
Oh, to help.
Yeah,
How much money
got
did you give?
The best part is volunteering, though. The best part is getting out there and volunteering and helping. And then, yes, at the very end of the week, unfortunately, I had to conceal who I was, I hated that part with a passion, and then go ahead and give them a check.
How much did they get?
A lot.
Oh, but can you say?
One thing that she hated about being in that show, The Secret Millionaires on ABC, that I talked about a little bit earlier in this video, was that she had to conceal who she was and hand them a check. I'm so glad that Whoopi weighed in on this and told her that it's a good thing that they didn't see who she was, because in Whoopi's response, it had to do with the people knowing that they were meeting an equal and it wasn't some rich person coming in just giving them money like some charity case. In Dani's case, and this is just a personal opinion, this isn't, I'm not trying to talk down or anything like that on anybody else, but in Dani's position, I think it's better for her to be able to donate anonymously because it shows that she's not doing it to get the praise or the recognition for it. She's doing it out of the goodness of her own heart. I think it's become a trend now on the internet of people showing themselves giving to a homeless person or doing something like that, and I think it defeats the purpose of helping. I know some people might disagree with me and they might say, well, it's a way to show others that you should be donating, that look at the smile on this person's face when they received that $100 or whatever it was. And I get that, but I think that it's come to a point where I see so many of these and I think we get the point. So I'm all for concealing who you are to donate, especially if you're a multimillionaire. Do you really need to scream from the rooftops that you're donating millions of dollars or you're donating a scholarship to a child? I don't know. I feel like at that point it's more of a look at me, I'm a good person because I'm donating, and it's not out of the goodness of your own heart. I don't know if that makes sense, and I don't know if I'm explaining myself properly, and I'm probably going to offend some people who are watching this that don't agree with me, and that's fine. We don't have to agree. Let's move on to the MLM Nation podcast episode that Dani was a guest on. The host talked about how he bought the parenting training and how it's made him a better dad, along with his wife was raving about the parenting advice as well. Dani talks about how she read her first book when she was homeless and she bought a book instead of buying food that day. The book was called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. She does talk about the voice that, again, told her to pick up her mat and told her to start this business that she hated so much, a product that she also hated that didn't work for her in an industry that she didn't like because of her previous business being in the same industry. So I find that very interesting. At the same time, she was also a cocktail waitress. Dani talks about her multiple companies that she has are able to bring aid to 500,000 people a month. 10,000 of them are orphans. She does say that she finds the luxury lifestyle that MLMs shill disgusting because that kind of lifestyle is what ruined her first marriage. But in the same interview, she uses a very common MLM tactic, and that is to just jump into something. In my opinion, it seems like she is one of those people who thinks MLM can be done the right way, when in reality, that's just not the case. The MLM structure is built where people at the bottom have to lose money or make little to no money in order to have the people at the top of the pyramid, MLM structure, make money. She mentioned that people have said they'll eventually go to her seminar once they have the money or once they can fit it into their schedule. But then Dani says you'll never have the time for it. Of course, she talks about how she still has naysayers in her life and people that are negative, even though she's done so much with her life, going from doing drugs, being homeless, to a multimillionaire, and how those people who don't believe that what she teaches works need to pull their head out of their butt. The interviewer then responds to this by saying you need to surround yourself with positive people and read personal development. Which, of course, if you know anything about MLMs or this kind of an industry, reading personal development is very, very heavily pushed. Another common MLM tactic that Dani uses is she's been able to stay home and raise all of her children, and she makes it a point to say that she didn't have someone else raise them. Let me say it again for the people in the back. Stop mom shaming. There is nothing wrong with staying home and raising your children or continuing your career and having your children go to daycare. You are not the mother of those children, and last time I checked, it's 2021. So unless if the child is being hurt, there's something going on, they are malnourished, something where Child Protective Services needs to be in that child's life, that's different. But a mother deciding that she's going to put her child through daycare because she wants to go work, or a mother who's deciding to put her career on hold, maybe even indefinitely, because she wants to stay home with her children and raise her children, why do we have to shame either side? Why do we have to do that? I don't understand. So, because as I said, it's 2021. Why are we still mom shaming? Just a thought. Unfortunately, for some people, they do not have the privilege of being a one-income household if they have a partner, or let's not forget that there is something called being a single mom or a single dad. They just cannot afford to stay home. They need to work. Dani says that the MLM industry is a great industry for people who have been in her position, and it's a great way to learn a lot and maybe then teach the person how to become an investor. Now, as much as I am against the MLM industry, if I want to play devil's advocate here, I can kind of see where she's coming from. Reason being is because I know a number of people who were MLM reps and they ended up leaving the MLM to actually start their own real business. They realized they had an entrepreneurial spirit and were amazing at sales or just talking to people in general. Being in an MLM can also show you what not to do in your own business because you're working for another company and you can kind of pick apart what you don't like about the company or about the marketing tactics. So I do think that some positives can come out of someone being in an MLM because I do know quite a number of people who did start their own business after the MLM, but I do believe there are more negatives than positives. What I find misleading is how Dani says the way they presented the business, how they dressed, and how they talked didn't make it seem like it was an MLM. Am I the only one who's seeing a pattern here? She likes to disguise a lot of her business dealings or use deception as a way to reel people in. SmarterNetworker.com is her site where they have scripts for MLM reps to follow that don't make it sound like a pyramid scheme according to Dani. With her website though, she's giving out scripts. MLM reps already have scripts, so now you're just adding more scripts into the mix, which means that they're just going to have an abundance of scripts and eventually they're going to overlap. Eventually MLM reps are going to be saying the same thing as the MLM rep before them. So it's going to sound like a script at one point. It's going to. Another thing I've noticed that Dani likes to do, especially on her YouTube channel and some of her seminars, is marriage, and she uses her own experiences as a way to break the ice and talk about the good and the bad. But of course, from what I have been able to find, it doesn't seem like Dani has any credentials where she could be giving out any kind of marriage counseling advice or really any other counseling advice. However, I'm very well aware that she is just speaking from her own experience, and I do think she has a right to because she has been divorced previously, so she sees it from both sides. I hope people don't take her advice as actual counseling and that they recognize she's just talking to you like a friend would talk to you. There was one video that I watched where she spoke about how to divorce-proof your marriage. She kept talking about how finances can affect marriages and how she believes it's because the marriage itself isn't strong enough. I can agree to an extent, but if a couple is struggling financially, that's going to put a lot of strain on their relationship, regardless of how strong their connection or love is to one another. I hope people only take this advice as a friend talking to you and not professional advice, because as I said, I have not been able to find any of her credentials. Before we get into some of the pricing of her products, I wanted to go over a testimonial that I was able to find online. As I said in the beginning of this video, there is not too much information out there besides just a few forums that kind of talk about what they think of her. Some people have gone as far as to call her a cult leader. Others just say that she's a scam or that it's another one of these get rich quick scheme type things. It's incredibly telling that there isn't that much negative information out there. And I'm not saying that this automatically makes her a bad person. She might be a legitimately great self-help guru, but after having a company come after me critiquing their company, this does kind of worry me just a little bit. You can be the greatest person in the entire world, but there's always going to be those who think otherwise. I've seen this testimonial in multiple different places and different articles and stuff like that. So of course I am taking it with a grain of salt, because I don't know if it's just a copy and paste or if this really was someone's initial, I guess you could say, not necessarily horror story with Dani, but their experience with Dani Johnson and her products. So just always take any of this stuff with a grain of salt, and please always do your own research. But let's get into it. Who is Dani Johnson? Of course, they go over a little bit about Dani. So the first paragraph I've already gone over, but they do say that since becoming a millionaire when she was 23, that she has founded Call to Freedom International and travels around the world teaching whoever will listen, or whoever can afford to listen, as we shall see, her principles of success. Can she help me succeed? That depends. You've probably visited Dani's site and seen the impressive array of testimonials from people of all walks of life. Her website boasts, more than 10,000 unique testimonials from people all over the world. Pretty impressive, to say the least. My personal experience with Dani is not that inspiring. I first ran into Dani's teachings when I was living in Fairbanks, Alaska. At the time, I was for the first time in my life making a significant income from my company, around $4,000 a month, only working about 2 hours a day. My organization was growing by 30 to 40% a month, and I was really enjoying the process. I came across Dani's teachings and really believed it would take me to the next level of success and help my team to experience the success they had been looking for. I bought every single training on her website. Quite the pretty penny, but worth the investment, or so I thought. I gathered my whole team together, and we had a huge house jam-packed full of people listening to Prospect and Close Your Way to Millions. All of them got fired up. Dani can be pretty darn convincing. I personally invested 3 to 4 hours a day listening to Dani's trainings, thinking I had finally found the golden key. So what were the results? My income immediately dropped by $1,000 that very month, and recruiting almost completely stopped. The funny thing was, nothing in the company had changed, and we were more excited than ever. So what did we do? Instead of dropping Dani Johnson like a bad habit, like we should have, we heard Dani say that we needed to go to a seminar, so a bunch of us flew down from Alaska to LA and attended her well-known First Steps to Success. I personally spent more than $1,500 between airfare, lodging, and the outrageously priced tickets. And between my group, I think the price we paid was around $15,000. That month, my income dropped by another $1,000. Convinced that I needed to invest in my skills, I went to Dani's Creating a Dynasty and bought her prospecting and closing classes, spending well over $2,500 2 months later. What happened? My income went from $2,000 to less than $1,000, and from then went down to around $400 before I did what I should have done, and that's drop Dani's teachings like a bad habit and do what is proven to work. So is Dani Johnson a scam or what? Although there are many people who claim to benefit from her teachings, I certainly was not one of them. I invested thousands of hours of listening, called more than 5,000 leads, and spent more than $5,000 of hard-earned cash flying all over the US and buying trainings that completely destroyed my business. When I called and asked for a refund politely, they declined. I certainly feel I was scammed. Which, the calling for a refund part, I know that there is a guarantee on Dani Johnson's website that I believe it's after 30 days. If you don't see anything different, you get a full refund. So that's kind of weird that they wouldn't give a refund unless if it was after a certain period of time. I'm not sure. The article keeps going a little bit more about this person because they are an MLM rep. So they went on to talk about what did work for them with their business, but we're not going to go over that because we just want to go over the Dani Johnson portion. Hey y'all, Monica from the future. Yes, I'm wearing something completely different. So I just wanted to add in here that there are, of course, a lot of good testimonials and a lot that really give Dani a lot of praise. Most of them are on her website, but I'm gonna play a few of them. I'm speeding up the audio and I'm hoping that I don't get any kind of copyright issue from this. So I'm gonna speed it up as much as I can so that you guys can get the idea of just how much people really give credit to Dani and her programs.
In there skeptical, within 10 minutes, I was totally convinced this is the person that I need to follow.
Our lives look completely different today than they did when we first started coming to First Steps to Success. And it scares me to think if we would only come to one. We've come to 30 or 40 events, and I'm like, what if we'd only come to one and thought we had it? Where would we be?
We started plugging in and implementing what she teaches. We paid off about $285,000 in debt in about 8 months. And we went on in that same time frame to create close to a 7-figure, multiple million-dollar income.
I think the biggest thing is that it showed us what our strengths were that we didn't realize that we had. I actually started a business 3 months ago and have generated more in 3 months than I did in a year. We've done over $33,000 in profits in 3 months. It was a little side thing I do when I'm not homeschooling my kids or cooking or, pulling weeds. Within the past week or two, I added up all the debt that I had paid off to today. And it was all credit card debt because I was living off my credit cards, and I lived off my line of credit too. And I paid off over $69,000 worth of credit card debt in 8 months.
Because I was so stressed out, I couldn't fall asleep at night. I had taken up cigarettes because I thought that sounded like a good idea. And I was at a very low place. And I got on a plane, and I went to St. Louis, First Steps to Success. And within the first 10 minutes, I heard, weigh your ego with your bank account. And I realized I had a very big ego and a very desperate life. Since then, my business has turned around quite a bit after applying the principle. And on the way down, I had a $2 million close.
Now that you've heard some testimonials, I wanted to react to a shorter video that is on Dani's YouTube channel because after watching this one, there are some similarities between Dani and Rachel Hollis. It seems as though their thought process is a little more similar than I originally suspected, and I stumbled upon this video while I was looking for B-roll for the rest of this video, and there are just so many videos out there like this one that are, I would say, maybe even a little more problematic. I mean, I already mentioned one in the beginning of this video, so you guys can look at those on your own time. I'm not going to react to every single one because this video would be hours and hours and hours long. Without further ado, let's see what Dani Johnson has to say in this YouTube video.
That I wanted to talk to you about today. In fact, I had just gotten off of my radio show, and there was quite a heated topic that we talked about. I don't know if you've heard, but there's some people in high places who are trying to tell you that the business or the success that you're attempting to build, that you're not the one doing it. Well, I want to talk to you about the reality of success. As a business owner, my husband Hans and I having 5 companies, sometimes more than that, and making investments that we've done for the last, well, for me, 23 years that I've been in business, I know exactly what it takes to actually succeed in business. And what I can tell you is what I have found with working with hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world. What I have found is that 98% of the population that ends up dead or dead broke at the age of 65, there is a certain way that they think. There is a certain mentality that they have. It's kind of been ingrained into them, almost programmed like you program a computer. And that mentality is, which causes them to end up broke at 65 or dead, is a mentality that somebody is supposed to do everything for them, or that if they find the right opportunity, then they will succeed, or if they could find the right job, or if they could marry the right person, or if they could find the right product or the right service, or if they lived in the right city and if they had the right house. Everything is always about the circumstances that are around them. And
Well, yeah, it is kind of about circumstances, because a perfect example is after I graduated with my bachelor's in 2009. Sorry, I had to think about that for a second. In 2009, we all know what happened the year before that. So it was really hard for me to find a job, and I wanted to continue my education. I still want, in an ideal world, I would love to go back for my PhD. But I decided that I'm going to go back for my master's, and I'll work part-time jobs here and there. At one point I had 3 jobs just to be able to pay for, because I started paying off my student loans from my bachelor's degree. And once I graduated with my master's degree, anytime that I went on an interview, it was, you're qualified when it comes to your education, but you're underqualified when it comes to your experience. Or it would be, you're qualified with your experience because it would be like an entry-level position, but you're overqualified with your education. And I just wanted that job, that I just wanted something. So of course, some time went by. I was working, like I said, multiple jobs at a time. I was working retail, food service, any job that I could get my hands on, I was doing so that I would be able to pay at least just my bills. And thankfully, I will forever be thankful to my parents for this, but I was able to still live at home. Did I pay rent to my parents? Yes, I did. But it was nowhere near rent prices in New Jersey, because if you're from Jersey, you know those rent prices are sky high. But so I was still able to live at home and have that privilege to be able to stay at home and be able to kind of get on my feet. And it was thanks to Hurricane Sandy. And this is why I'm going to say that it is circumstantial sometimes. It is. Thanks to Hurricane Sandy, we had, because in Jersey we got hit pretty bad. In our neighborhood, there were trees down everywhere. A tree fell, literally, it fell on my car, but it didn't actually do anything to my car. It like just scraped the back bumper a little bit. So I got lucky with that, because that would have been just bad. So my dad went outside to kind of cut down some of the trees and try to get it to the point where we'd be able to at least leave our driveway. And my neighbor from across the street, who I've known for basically my entire life, they've been there since we moved there. And I used to, when I was younger, I used to play with his daughter, his older daughter. She kind of took me under her wing when I was a little bit younger. She was a little bit older, so I felt like a cool kid kind of. But so we were pretty close with the family. And he just so happened to ask my dad, "Hey, is Monica still looking for a job?" And my dad said, "I mean, yeah, she's always looking for a job. She has one now, but she's not a big fan of it, but she's always looking for a job." And thanks to that moment, thanks to me bringing my resume to my neighbor, and thanks to all of that, granted, yes, I did pretty well in the interview, but thanks to him, I was able to get a job, and the job that I so badly wanted, and that was the best job, the best 9-to-5, the best office job. I know MLM reps love to hate on 9-to-5s, but this was literally the best job I've ever had in my life. They had great benefits. I met great people. I learned so much from top leaders in the company. And I know that I probably kind of sound like an MLM rep right now, but I learned so much from that job. And I will forever be thankful to that moment that my dad just decided he was going to go outside and the neighbor approached him. So sometimes it is luck. It is circumstantial. It is privilege. It is all of that. It's not necessarily, and this is why I wanted to react to this particular video of hers on YouTube, because doesn't it kind of sound a little similar to the current events that have happened with Rachel Hollis? And this is why I wanted to show this one, so that people could be more aware that there are other gurus out here, gurus like Rachel Hollis, that are saying the things that she's saying, but no one even sees it. No one hears it because we don't know these people. So anyway, I've rambled. Let's get back to it.
circumstances that are around them instead of the reality. What does it actually take to succeed? You see, 2% of the population is going to end up financially independent. The difference between these two populations is the way they think, the way they approach life, the way they make decisions, and how they see circumstances. The truth is that all of us live here on planet Earth. Well, maybe not all of us, but the vast majority who are watching this video, they realize they live on planet Earth. We're all human. We've all been given 24 hours in a day, and we all work, or at least you're supposed to. We all work. Whether that's you work in the home or out of the home, we all work. So if we all have 24 hours in a day, we all live on planet Earth, and we all work, what are you doing with your time? Because people like Bill Gates or the late Steve Jobs, they lived on planet Earth, they had 24 hours in a day, and they worked. Why is it that they made so much more money than the rest of us?
Because they had an innovative product. And the reason why I say that is because Dani Johnson is well known within, well, from what she has said, she built her empire off of MLM. So she's probably well known within the MLM industry. One of the podcasts that I already spoke about in this video was MLM Nation. So her name is out there within the MLM industry. So the reason why I'm even bringing this up is because she's comparing success to people like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, who had an innovative product, who have really truly made a name for themselves and evolved with the times and have been able to build an empire. But you can't compare that to the MLM reps that are part of her target audience. You cannot compare the two. It's two completely different things. An MLM rep is not the same as Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. Maybe that MLM rep has the same drive and the same spirit and wants to be an entrepreneur, and maybe, just maybe, that MLM rep will leave the MLM and create their own business, because that has happened too. And they'll take the things that they learned, the things that they didn't like, the things that they thought were scummy, and they'll change it for their own business. So I'm sorry, I had to say it.
Because there is a variable in the equation of success, and that variable is you. It's you. Not your government that you're working under, not the boss, not the business, not the manufacturing, not the product, not the service. You, and what you do with what you have. You see, when I first got started in business, as a homeless, broke, fat cocktail waitress, well, the business that kind of presented itself to me, if you will, was actually sitting in my back seat. It was not something that I wanted to do, but as a cocktail waitress, I knew that I'd be homeless for another 3 months, and I knew I would never pay off my $35,000 in debt making the amount that I was making as a cocktail waitress. So I came to that conclusion. Hopefully you're coming to the same conclusion. This is not going to work. I have to find a way to generate more income. Well, that business that was in the back seat of my car really wasn't a business, it was a product. And it was a product that I wasn't interested in. It was a product that didn't work for me. It was a product that I had no credibility in. It was in the weight loss industry. I was fat. Who was gonna listen to me? I'm fat. Who's gonna listen to me? I didn't even like this product. That's how come it was sitting in the back of my car instead of actually me using it. Well, I didn't believe in it. I didn't like it. It wasn't my lifelong dream and passion. It wasn't the right business, in my opinion at that time. But I had to step up and become the right person in order to get out of debt, to make more money, and to make a change in my life. Rather than waiting around for someone to sail in and save the day, I had to make some serious changes. And
I can see where she's trying to go with this, because of course she is a motivational speaker and she is, self-help, personal development, whatever you want to call it. So I can see where she's going with this, that she's trying to say that you have to have that drive, you have to have that mentality of working hard and persisting and all of that, which I'll agree with her. Yes, you do have to be able to have that in the back of your head where you want to be able to work hard. You can't be just sitting on the couch eating chips all day long and think that you're going to be successful if you just do that all day long. But that's common sense. We know that that's not how you're going to make money. Unless if there's something out there that I just don't know about, and maybe they're selling feet pics or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, so I can see where she's going with this, but at the same time, she kind of admits to, in a sense, being a little bit of a scam, in my opinion. And the reason why I say that is because she herself admitted she had no credentials with the product that was in this video, she said in the backseat of her car, but every other thing I've read or listened to or watched, she said the trunk of her car, so it doesn't matter, it was in her car. But she talks about this product, the product didn't work for her, and she was going to sell it. And she said how she wasn't, I guess, the ideal look for some kind of a health and wellness product. But that's how she got herself out of debt. And I think that the reason why she was able to do that is because, one, she was desperate. So in her mind, yeah, I'll scam as many people as I can because I'm living out of my car and I need a place to stay. So in that situation, you're in survival mode. So I can, as I've said, I know I'm repeating myself, I can see where she's going with this, but she just admitted that she pretty much scammed people. She does say in other interviews that the product did work for other people, and that just proves the point, because if we want to look at an MLM company like Beachbody, these MLM reps, they say, oh, well, you just didn't, if the program isn't working for you, you're not doing it right because it works for everybody. This clearly shows that these health and wellness products don't work for everybody because it didn't work for Dani, but it worked for other people who reached out to her. And it was thanks to this product that she became a millionaire at 23 years old. So keep that in mind when some of these reps say, oh, well, it's a one size fits all, because it's not. It's not one size fits all.
Serious changes, and that's unfortunate because people who are struggling right now, they're waiting for someone to take the problems away. They're waiting for someone to change the circumstances. They're waiting to be found. They're waiting for somebody to make all the difference for them. There is no somebody. Actually, I have to correct myself. You are the somebody. It's you. So I started that business from the trunk of my car and the payphone booth, and you know the rest of the story. I made $2,000 profit the first 4 days. Within 45 days, I made $18,000. By my 10th month in business, income for that month was $80,000. First year, $250,000. By the end of my second year, I made my first million. I'm happy to tell you that there was not a government that came in and helped me start that business. Nope. And there wasn't a person that came in and helped me build that business. Nope. I had to learn the skills of developing a team of people with skills of learning how to motivate them, pull the best out in them, as well as skills that I had to learn on how to market, how to present, how to close, and how to develop a reputation in a place where I had a horrible reputation on building that business. So if you are one of those that's trying to cross over from 98 to 2%, one of the things that you must confront are these mindsets and these beliefs that it's the outside circumstances that are going to make you successful. It's not. It's you. And it's time you take personal responsibility for what's happening in your job. If you're not getting promoted, if you're not getting the raise, if you're not moving forward, you have to take personal responsibility, and you have to ask yourself the question, how can I make myself more valuable? That's why I'm so proud.
Doesn't this kind of sound a little bit like law of attraction? A little bit. Or, what's the other thing? What's that one thing? I just heard Savannah Marie say something about it, and she said that Madison Harnish also went over it. I think it's called The Secret or something like that. That's something that I do want to look into, because after hearing multiple people talk about that, I'm kind of interested in that subject. But doesn't this kind of sound a little bit like that you have to take responsibility and you have to figure out a way of how can I change it? It's not always going to be dependent on the person, because a perfect example, I never asked to be diagnosed with epilepsy. I never asked for that. My life completely changed after I was diagnosed with that. The school that I originally wanted to go to, I could not go to anymore because I could not live on campus. I had to commute, and it was too far for me to commute. So there are things that happen in your life where you have no control over it. No matter how much you think about it and no matter how much of a great mentality you have, there are going to be things that happen. Not too long ago, in the beginning of March, I got into a car accident. Not my fault, but someone hit me. I was on my way home from the emergency room because I was in the emergency room in the morning and I just wanted to go home and drink my freaking strawberry milkshake. That's all I wanted to do. And someone decided to hit me. And I did not get home until, what was it, like 6:30 or something like that night, because of a lot of other things that happened in between there. But there are things that happen in your life that you have no control over. Yeah, you can have an optimistic outlook and you could try to say, you know what, I'm just gonna keep going. Yeah, this sucks so bad. Now I have to get my car repaired, all X, Y, and Z. But certain things that happen in your life you have no control over, and you shouldn't have to take responsibility for something that you have no control over. Can you move past it and can you move on? Yes. But this whole mentality thing, it just reminds me of all of these other personal development, self-help, law of attraction nonsense that's out there in the world.
That's why I'm so proud of you for being here in the Insider, because there's things in here, tips that we're sharing with you on video as well as audio and articles that are going to help you to become more valuable. But what about that business that isn't quite where you want it to be financially? Quit blaming the economy. Don't blame the government. Don't blame your spouse for not supporting you. Don't blame the prospects that you're talking to that are all broke. No, you haven't yet figured out how to get the cash out of their hands in place of your product or your service, because they are spending money somewhere. My family was at Six Flags last weekend. Oh my gosh! Thousands and thousands of people spending thousands of dollars for one day of pleasure. Those are the same people that are telling you they can't afford your product or service. Hello? They didn't tell Six Flags they couldn't afford that expensive ticket or that $10 Slurpee. Give me a break. People are spending money. You need the skill to learn how to get them to spend it with your product or service. So don't blame your spouse.
I'm sorry, but I would much rather, I'm not allowed to go on roller coasters anymore because of the epilepsy, but if it wasn't for that, I would much rather go to Six Flags than spend my hard-earned money on an MLM product. Just my opinion though, I'd much rather spend it to have fun with my family. And you know what? Every once in a while, it's fine to splurge. It's fine to get a $10 Slurpee because you're out doing something with your family that you don't do every single day. It's fine to splurge every once in a while. And no one has to explain why they'd rather hang out with their family and spend $10 on a Slurpee or go to Six Flags or something like that. No one has to explain why they would rather do that than pay for what's an MLM, Color Street nail wraps or some nonsense like that. They're not comparable. They're not. And you want to know something? Sometimes people are just being nice and they say, I'm not interested, or I don't have money for that right now. They're just being nice. I've done that before in the past, but now after making these videos for so long, it's literally to the point where I say, no thank you, I don't support MLMs. That's it.
Don't blame the kids, don't blame your past, don't blame your customers, don't blame anything. It's time to step up and get the skills that you need to succeed, because at the end of the day, you're the one that has to grow that thing. You're the one that has to pay off the debt. You're the one that's going to build that career or that business. You're the one that's going to fix the things in the marriage. You're the one that it's all going to fall down to. So it's up to you to get what you need so that you can succeed. Listen, if I can do it, and the tens of thousands before me who have done it and after me, then so can you. So I'll see you next time here on The Insider. Hey, get on over to Facebook and say hello.
So I can see where she was coming from with all of that. I can definitely see where she's coming from. She's trying to be a motivational speaker. That's all that it is. And she talks about her experience and stuff like that. But at the same time though, how many people do you know? Because I'm sure that she's not the only person that was sleeping out of their car, was homeless, and tried to do something, and they were in survival mode and they did whatever they could to get out of debt. Because the whole part about well, I had this weight loss thing sitting in the back of my car, and within however many hours, I already had phone calls. That doesn't happen all the time. In my opinion, that is luck, because not everyone is going to go. I think it was she left the information at a post office and she had the telephone booth and stuff. Not everyone who goes to the post office pays attention to, hey, here's a weight loss thing, call this phone number. I think it was purely luck. I'm glad that she was able to get out of debt, and I'm glad that she was able to get out of that situation. So I can see where she was coming from, but it's just a lot of the other things that she said in there were kind of problematic, and trying to say that we need to take responsibility and everything. Yeah, we do, but I mean, that's part of being an adult. At the same time, though, you can't tell me that everything falls on me. You can't tell me that there aren't circumstantial things that happen in life. You cannot tell me that, because I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. Even the bad things, the worst things that have happened in my life, they happen for a reason. What that reason is, I may never find out what that reason is, but they happen for a reason. Let me know what you guys think about this reaction video, and I'm going to bring it back to past Monica. But now I wanted to go over the pricing of her products. We will be taking a look at a few different products to go over pricing and what you receive. But of course, there are more than just these if you're interested in looking into this further. This first one is the Unlimited Success Bundle, a complete crash course into career building, making more money, boosting sales, and cultivating great relationships. It says, by combining 3 of Dani Johnson's most popular and influential products into one awesome bundle, we've made it easier than ever for you to obliterate the obstacles that hinder your success. Conditioning for Success, Profit Skills, and Magnetic Influence contain hours of training with multimillionaire Dani Johnson combined into one money-saving package. Well, that money-saving package is $497. But if we wanted to buy just one of those by itself, which is the Profit Skills one, that one is $397, and that is to tap into exponential sales growth and gain the competitive edge in any market. A less expensive set of training, or whatever you want to call it, that I found was the 6 Figures in 6 Months, which is $97, and it says it's a proven formula for building a huge home-based business in a year or less. You can go ahead and look into more of her products on your own time, because I'm not going to go through every single product she has on her website. But there was something I wanted to go over, and this was a live conference type of a thing. Well, it's a live event, but it's a conference. So the name of this live event is called First Steps to Success, and it's from April 9th to the 11th of this year, 2021. It's a 3-day event that is streaming. Of course, there's a video about it on there. It says, don't miss out because you're living your life on autopilot, which is another example of FOMO. You deserve better than just going through the motions. Does your life feel so predictable you can't really remember when you truly enjoyed yourself? Maybe you're just living day to day or month to month. Maybe you're living paycheck to paycheck. Are you struggling at home or work because you're bored? Or maybe you're struggling because you're exhausted, overwhelmed, and losing sleep over it. Again, these are all very, very common MLM tactics. But if we go down to the registration portion, it says change your life today bonus. Total value $534. It talks about all the different things that you'll get. Then there's a limited time offer, which is $447. Isn't that a Grant Cardone thing to end things in a 7? The savings is 26%. Hey guys, Editing Monica here. As for this conference, at the time of filming this a few weeks ago, the prices were slightly different. It was a limited offer of $447 with 26% savings back in March, but on April 10th, which is when I grabbed these screenshots, it was $337 with a 37% savings. But anyway, back to the video. And then on the website, it says results 100% guaranteed. Yes, I am personally guaranteeing this event. That means if you go home and apply everything you learned and you don't have more money in your bank account, you didn't see growth in your business, you didn't get promoted, you didn't pay off any debt, you don't have a plan to grow your income, or you don't see healing inside of your relationships, we will give your money back guaranteed. Signed, Dani. This live event isn't overpriced like some of the other gurus out here, but if you are in debt and let's say you don't have the money, this can really put a damper on your finances. So is Dani Johnson a cult or a cult leader, have a cult-like following, whatever you want to say? Because I did see some people say this in certain forums and everything. Personally, in my opinion, I don't think it's a cult. I think it's more so that a lot of Dani's loyal followers have a very unhealthy parasocial relationship with her. And I think that might be the issue there. I really don't think that it's a cult. And they're not just fans, they're stans. Editing Monica here again. I wanted to add that I do think that Dani takes a lot of inspiration from church because of the way she speaks. As I've already said so many times on this channel, I cannot stand when people use religion as a way to shill their products or programs. Dani says she's not preaching prosperity gospel, but she's woven religion into her brand. It's pretty much part of her brand at this point. This reminds me a lot of what Rachel Hollis does. Actually, it would be the other way around because Dani has been around in this industry much longer than Rachel. What I will say, given the current events of Rachel Hollis, and if Dani is telling the truth about her upbringing, Dani did struggle. Rachel married a Disney executive, which helped her business. Both of these women are privileged, so not everyone is going to have the same outcome and the same success that they did. There are people who will work themselves to the bone and never get to where people like Dani and Rachel Hollis are due to not having the same privilege. When it comes to public figures, I'm not a fan when they, along with celebrities, get put on a pedestal. Some of these people are treated like gods. I mean, I've had people come for me when I talk about Brittany Dawn and her scamming ways, calling me all sorts of names just because they didn't agree that I had an opinion about Brittany that wasn't a positive one. At the end of the day, I can see why people would compare Dani to a cult leader or question if maybe there is a cult or a cult-like following. That is the end of this video. I know that it was a little bit of a brief overview and there wasn't as much information as I usually put in these videos, these more deeper dive type videos, but there's not that much information out there about Dani. I can't find where she went to school. I can't find where she grew up, and I am not about to buy one of her books and contribute to her because I don't agree with what she's doing. I'm not about to buy one of her books to read all of that information because it might not even be in there. It really might not. But it's just odd that there wasn't that much information out there, especially, now I'm not saying that people need to have a Wikipedia or anything like that, but Dani Johnson doesn't even have a Wikipedia. I would think that if she's a multimillionaire, with her story, with her rags to riches story, I feel like there would be enough of a story, enough of information about her to create a Wikipedia page. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. I do find it very telling and very odd that there is not that much information out there about Dani Johnson. There's not that much criticism against her. There is a little bit, but not like other things that I've seen. I don't know. And the fact that I've never heard of her before, but she's a multimillionaire and in the MLM industry, I just... My spidey senses go off a little bit with this one. So you guys let me know what you think. Let me know if you know anything about Dani Johnson. Did you ever read any of her books? Was she, if you are an ex-rep, was her work encouraged? Or were you encouraged to read her work, like her books and stuff? And let me know what you guys think of the fact that her first book was called Spirit Driven Success, because like I said, if you know me, you know that I hate when people use religion to sell their nonsense. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. I will see you guys next time. And this is Monica reporting to you live from a highway. Bye.